Well, welcome back to another episode of Grit, Grind, and Hustle. I'm so excited for our guest today. We have with us Michael Jones. And Michael Jones is not the Mike Jones of the hip hop world, but the Mike Jones, the one and only of the acting world, the film and television world, with over 30 years of experience. Right?
Yes, about that. Yes.
So I did a little bit of research on you. I've been looking you up a little bit, and I've been very curious to get the full story because you've worked really from the bottom all the way to the very top. So
yes,
take me through that.
Well, thank you. First off, thanks for having me. Like anybody, when I was a kid, I just wanted to be an actor, and I started off. That was my goal. I wanted to be an actor. And in high school, I did all the plays, I did all the stuff, and I set a goal. I'm like, okay, there's one particular show called A Different World was coming out, and it was the Cosby spinoff. And I said, I'm going to be on that show. I don't know how. And later, my senior year, we had a kid that came to school, and his mom wrote for the show. And so I ended up being an extra. It was the first time I ever did anything. And so I drove down weekly, and I did 13 episodes. And I was just like a background extra, but I was kind of featured. Because if you remember the show, it was primarily a black college, and I'm light skinned, so they kind of placed me in strategically. So it was great, and I just took that opportunity. I did plays. I went to LA. I had gotten a lead on a pilot called Story Behind the Story, which was the same makers of Unsolved Mysteries. So I went to LA, and they hired me as a PA, and essentially that was a production assistant, the ground floor with the company. And the great thing about Unsolved Mysteries at the time, or any series, if you're on and you're able to stay on, I just worked my way up. And I was on that show for 7.5 years. And I went from PA to coordinator to AD. Then I ended up actually being a segment producer. I did the live segments with Robert Stack for the host segments. And so I just worked my way up. And I tell people, that was my film school. I didn't go to film school, but I learned. I tried every position. How do you do this? What does that do? How does this work? And that's when we were still using film. We were using Super 16. And they went over to beta. So that was really, to me, the best lesson. I really just got thrown into it, and I kept learning, kept asking questions. And I realized, what do I like? And that was an opportunity for me to say, I really like coordinating. And at that time, coordinating in more, I didn't know, segueing into a UPM and line producer, where I eventually ended up now.
Okay.
So that's how that started.
So you said that you moved to Los Angeles. So you're originally from Oakland, right?
I'm born and raised in Oakland, California. I drove down to LA, I think, when I turned, all of 19 or 20.
Was there not like an acting scene in Oakland at the time?
No, I mean, there was. I took classes at ACT, the American Conservatory Theater. So I took classes there. And I got in some commercials. So I definitely did some work. And then you know how it is. You want to go to LA. And let's give it a shot. And for me, that was an opportunity to go there. And again, the way my life worked, I ended up having a kid very early, which was great. And I love it. And all of a sudden, my priorities changed. I realized when I went for auditions, there were 30 other guys that looked just like me.
Yeah.
And for me at that time, stability with this TV show meant I had benefits. I could afford, I had a weekly job, and I couldn't turn that down. And I was still in the business. I was still learning. And at the time, it's just so weird the way my life worked, because what I know now, I wish I would have, applied back then. Because I used to run with a lot of people, and I didn't even know it. Like, I used to have meetings with everybody in town, high ups. And I was, I want to be an actor. I want to be an actor. Not realizing I should have said, oh my gosh, I want to be a producer. But I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
And they were great. They took me in like, hey, kid, that's great. We'll take the meeting and, go on your way. But that was pretty interesting stuff. So
what was the point that you decided not to do the acting thing anymore? Other than like having your kid and,
I think that was it. It was just more reality where it wasn't happening.
Okay.
And I wasn't pushing it as much. And again, I kind of got in a role where I just started working a lot. After Unsolved Mysteries, I kind of just, did other shows, and I got with a company, and they did all the HBO live comedy shows. So we did Chris Rock, Bill Maher, David Spade, Kathy Griffin. It was great. And again, I just realized, okay, this is going to be my wheelhouse right now. And I saw it more as a career, an opportunity. I was like, okay, again, I'm working weekly. I have a job.
Yeah.
I'm able to afford. At that time, we didn't buy a house yet. We were still renting. We were still in LA. And I just realized, okay, this is my path right now. It wasn't till a few years later that it really hit me where I needed to go. I was still kind of testing the waters, even for myself. Because every time I got a new opportunity, it was something new and I was scared. It was a challenge. Like, oh, I've never coordinated before. I've never been a production manager. I've never been a first AD. And I did it. I'm like, oh, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. And I'm really grateful now because how I learned back then, some of the programs weren't out yet. So Final Draft had just come out. Movie Magic Budgeting had just come out. And I had kind of learned the old school way, which helps me now because it applies when I do my work, my critical thinking, and how I do things. And so I'm very glad that I was able to come up through that possibility.
Yeah.
If any of this makes sense. Sorry, I kind of jump all over the place. I'm sorry.
No, that's
I'm
fine.
a total Gemini.
Yeah.
No, I think that's perfect. So you didn't go to like a formal film college.
No.
But you were learning on the spot. What do you think was better?
For me personally, I think being on the spot.
Yeah.
Being thrown into it. I think in the old days, you can go to film school, you can watch movies, and you can talk theory and talk about, the Steadicam shot. That doesn't do anything. Until you're thrown into it, and you have people relying on you. And the thing about, at least with Unsolved Mysteries, whatever the portion of the show that I did, it had to air the next week. So you had to be ready. And even when I did the live HBO show, that's live. We would do 2 tapings and you're running and gunning because you do all your prep for one day. It's a live show. And again, you don't have let's reset, let's pause, let's do another take. It's like, nope, this is going live. And so I think those were good opportunities for me to really be thrown into situations. And this is why now I'm really good on the fly. If something were to happen, I can do critical thinking. I can assess it. I always have a contingency plan. I think ahead. And I feel like that's helped me way more than, film school.
Yeah.
That's cool to hear because I went to film school.
Okay.
And I have my opinions on it, of course. Mm-hmm. But I also went to film school out here where I know the program's not the best it could be.
Right.
It's still relatively new, so they were shifting things around even while I was in it. But I can agree with you. Because I went, I can say like a lot of it wasn't worth it.
Right.
A lot of it kind of was not worth the time. There were some good things I got out of it. I would say mainly the networking was the best part of it.
Yes.
But there wasn't a whole lot of hands-on that you would get from just going the route that you did, which I missed out on.
Right.
So,
currently right now, again, I don't know what's the next thing that I can segue into something about that, because a few years ago, I was asked to teach at the Academy of Art in San Francisco, and they just asked me to consult this summer for the summer series. And the great thing about a school like that is they have 2 built stages, right? Literally, they build the sets every week. They have an assignment. They have a shop house, so they build the sets. They have production design. They have all the cameras and gear, and they treat it like a real television or movie set. So they have practical experience, and that's it. You're in class. We talk for a little bit. You have a lesson, but then you were there literally filming real stuff. And you have to hire actors. You have to hire stunt people. You have to do permits. And I think that's a great way because they're really being thrust into. So when they come out, and the woman that runs the program, Jana Memel, she's a 3-time Oscar winner. And her whole thing is, I want these kids to learn the process. So when you come out, again, you have that hands-on experience. Oh, this is what it feels like to hold a C-stand or to hold the boom. Or you're filming and your lead actress is sick, and what do you do? And it's like you're really getting thrown these curveballs, as opposed to, again, no disrespect to watching old classic movies and saying that was really cool, because everything's changed now.
Yeah.
And listen, like we're on a podcast and it's a digital world and you can shoot on your iPhone 13. So how do you apply all that stuff? It's still the basics of what we knew back in the day to all this new school stuff.
God, I wish we had that. I wish we had that. I'm jealous hearing that, because that's what I wanted from film school.
Right.
And instead I got exactly what you talked about. Sit in a class, watch an old movie.
Yeah, theory.
And and theory, and talk about this shot and that shot. And more often than not, I had a professor who, he was great. I liked him the best, but a lot of times his lessons came from YouTube.
Right.
He would pull up YouTube and show us videos from this channel that would, again, it was a film analysis channel, but it's like, you could get your education off YouTube for free and then go and actually just go do the thing. You'll gain a lot more.
Right.
So I'm jealous.
Yeah. It's one of the things whenever I was going to some acting schools out in Los Angeles, I loved the collaborative nature of those classes because we would, after, we'd get all hyped up in class and then we'd go out and shoot something and, it'd always fail at the editing board because we're not, as actors, not good editors. But, just getting out and getting in front of the camera was something. And, that was one thing that, it was a James Franco thing. And they would always just talk about, finding that little team that you can go and do those little things with.
Right.
So, I definitely think we need some better education here. So, and that's what you're doing. You're kind of helping with some education.
Well, it's great. It'll be 3 years this summer that I moved to New Mexico, and I'm here in Mesa del Sol. And I've been very fortunate that UNM, there's an annex here. They've asked me to speak, and she just wrote me again, and she wants me to speak to the fall students. And it's great. I love to go in there and just talk to the students. I'm actually talking with the New Mexico Film Office because they want some boot camps, and they want me to. I did write a curriculum, and they want to talk about me maybe doing a couple of sessions during the summer, like through Zoom or whatever. Again, same thing, training people up. Mm-hmm. And so then the Academy of Art just called me yesterday, and they want me to be a consultant over the summer session and help the students. Again, I'm going to do it by Zoom, so I don't actually have to fly to San Francisco. But basically consult, help with the budgets, the scheduling, and help the students. And again, have them think critical thinking. Because everyone just thinks, oh, I want to get a camera and shoot. Mm-hmm. And they never think about the 20 things that go along with it. This happens all the time. I had a friend recently, and I was doing a budget, and she's like, oh, we're just going to get it there. Don't worry. I'm like, well, how are you going to get it there? Okay, you got a camera. How do you get it there? And I really said, all right, you want to shoot in Palmdale. That's, at least 60 miles from LA. You need a truck. Oh, did you think about gas? Oh, I said gas is $7 a gallon. Oh, so all those things they didn't think about. And that's where I help. I'm like, okay, you got to really break it down. Oh, it's going to be a lot hotter out there. How much more water are you going to go through? You really have to just assess everything. And people are like, oh, wow, now I totally understand. I'm like, do you have an AC? Because you're doing your memory cards. Where's that going to go? Now you need a shuttle drive. And I'm like, so whenever I hear people like, oh, I got a free location, that's great. How's that going to work? Because I can tell you in the first hour, that bathroom is going to get plugged up. What's your alternative? Did you talk to the neighbors? Are you going to be in the parking lot? You don't have a generator. What happens if you blow the fuse? Again, there's 30 other things that go with this so-called free location. Mm. And I can tell you, every time I've gone something gets broken. So do you have insurance? No. I'm like, well, there you go. So
jeez.
I hate the idea of free. Or I try to get people to think that's great, but still have money planned as a contingency because something always happens.
Well, nothing's truly free.
Exactly.
You're going to pay for it in some
Exactly.
Damn, that's crazy. So you've done like you said, comedy specials. You've done movies. It's not reality TV. It's
I've done reality. I've done a reality.
Yeah, because you did an Extreme Home Makeover, right?
Extreme Home Makeover was one of the best shows ever. I mean, for me, everything about that show was just amazing in the sense of just how it worked, as we were like a family. But I've done other shows for MTV and VH1. After Jersey Shore, they were trying to do other ones. So they didn't go, there's one called Buck Wild I was on, and it was like the Hillbillies.
Okay.
Down in West Virginia. That was a nightmare. And then we did one called So Caliente, which was the Hispanic kids in like Moreno Valley. It was the same thing. It was the same concept.
Yeah. Take
these kids, throw them in a situation. And then, again, so I did a lot of those for a minute. And those, again, they're a different entity. I like feature films. I'm segueing into other things, figuring out, what's next. I've done commercials. It's just not my thing. I don't go after it. I did one recently, and that's fine. And I do short films. I do like working on projects that are, especially now at my age, I want to just do something different. What's going to motivate me? What's going to make me feel good? And what do I want to spend my time on?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more particular now than I used to be, where I felt like I had to do everything. And now I'm like, how much time is that really going to take out of my life? I don't know if I need to do that one.
Well, it's a different pace with each one of these types of.
Right.
So What's that like? Because I mean, right now on feature films, I mean, I've talked to you and you've just got off like a 20-hour day, 8 days back to back.
Yeah, I just finished a movie. I was in Atlanta for 2.5 months. It was great. We just finished it. And, that was a grind because I was working myself personally. I was the line producer. So I literally had 70 to 80 people I was in charge of every day. We had a big crew. We had a big cast. And that's, so every day from the time I wake up, it's Michael. And then I go to bed. It's Michael. My phone never stopped. Literally, I worked every day, no lie. Maybe I have, Sundays off. And I love it. And it's great because part of me works better with the chaos.
Yeah.
And again, all I'm doing is I'm problem solving. And luckily I had a great team. But it's a grind. And so right now I'm kind of enjoying this time off for the summer to sit back and like, okay, before I just say yes to the next project, what is that going to be? Now, this experience, I had a great time, great people to work with. And, it was on location. It was fun. It was different. And so, yeah, it takes a toll on you. It does, and I'm not as young as I used to be. I mean, I'm still young, but, doing that every day, you do get worn out. Mm-hmm. You do.
So on that, I've never seen you not smiling, right? And you do your motivation thing. Like, you're the most chipper guy I know. So how in the world do you keep doing that?
Thank you. I think one of the things for me, I just enjoy life. I really do. I get up and I just give thanks for the day. And my motto is, if you wake up for the day, you've already won. Everything else is bullshit from there. And I think even on the movie, and you can ask anyone, and they would say, Michael, like, you kept us laughing every day. It's like the 15th hour. And we had some like really bad days due to some lightning storms and, a lot of, extraneous weather stuff. And I just kept everyone laughing. And it was like, and the same thing, like, oh my gosh, you keep us motivated. And I feel, why not? There's so much stuff going on in the world right now. Mm-hmm. I don't like to be a part of that. And that's really where I'm reassessing certain people I work with, certain things, because I just can't be around the negativity all the time. So I do like to be positive. I do like to keep that mental health going of, all right, you know what? Even in adversity, what can I learn from this? Okay, today's a bad day. Everything fell apart. What can we learn? What did I learn? I still feel I'm growing. I'm teaching. I'm asking the questions. And I find it way better to smile and have fun than to be angry or a narcissist and just... And I know so many people that just have this chip and this cloud over them all the time. And they wonder, how come nobody hires me? How come I can't move forward? And I'm like, you got to let all that go.
Yeah.
And, again, everything's into perspective. And again, I say COVID was probably one of the best blessings for all of us. And I feel bad for those that have passed away, but it was a big wake up call.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? What do I have with the rest of this time on? And I choose to smile and be happy. And at the end of the day, walk away knowing who I am and just being happy inside. And then the other thing, I just like making people feel better.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I genuinely feel good about that. Like, and even on this last movie, hey, I see you're struggling. Why don't we move you to a different position? I think you're better suited here. And I like to pump people up and just make them feel good because, I don't know, I just feel better giving. I don't know, it's a thing.
So with that, I mean, like, my brief little bit within productions and stuff, like, how do you deal with people's egos? You being like wanting to help everybody, like, how in the world, whenever some people in that industry, all they want to do is take.
Yeah.
So how do you handle that?
Listen, I am a nice guy, but at the same time, I stand up and I'm not afraid. I've gone up against big people that it's funny, the bigger they think they intimidate and they don't. And by the end of it, they end up kind of like, I've gone up to like big giant teams. I'll just give them a hug and that just breaks them, and then like, oh, okay, what's up, Jones? What's up, Jones? I think, again, I just talk to people, honestly. I'm like, and I will call them out. I'm like, why are you so angry? Like, literally, I remember when I was in Portland, I'm not saying a great guy, gaffer, a gaffer is a chief lighting electrician. And, gaffers and grips, these guys and gals work hard and they carry a lot of gear. I remember one day, and I'm just an indie producer, and I bought a Range Rover. I bought a used one, used. And I show up, it was my dream car, and he goes like, oh, you producers, you just like all that, blah, blah. And something. I said, well, wait a minute. I said, let's break this down. I bought a used car. You have a dually, a houseboat, 2 homes, all that. And I said, you're on triple time, whatever. And, he goes, well, you producers in my back. I said, well, wait. I said, you chose a profession in which you have to carry gear. I chose one I don't. So don't get mad at me because your knees hurt and all that. And I just called him out and I talked to him. And it was so funny. I kind of broke him. It's just, but that's the thing. Like, you made a choice. Don't get mad at me because I chose to take a different path and I just use a laptop as my basic tool and not have to carry heavy shit every day. Yeah. That's not what I want to do. And again, I have no problem in talking to people, but I will say, why are you so angry? You get to play. You get fed 3 times a day. You're getting, double and triple time. I'm on a flat always. So what are you really complaining about?
Yeah.
And I just call people. I say, hey, you know what? In perspective, look at what's going on. And I will do this. I literally will get on set in front of everybody some mornings and I'll say, guys, you know what? And gals, like, yesterday was a hard day, whatever. And I'll say, stop for a second. So it's funny. I was kind of stressed. We were in Atlanta doing this movie and it was kind of a stressful day. And it was one of those days I forgot something had happened in the world. And I said, everybody stop now. And I freaked them out. I said, stop what you're doing. I said, turn to the person on your left and you shake their hand and say, you're doing a great job. And they did. And I was like, oh shit. What, really? And I'm like, yeah. I said, take a moment, you guys. I said, now I'm back to work. Because you just have to stop. And that's what I do. I like to remind people of all the opportunities that we have in general. And I don't even know if I answered your question, but
no, I mean,
the Eagles, it is tough. And I will say that it is tough because I've dealt with the actors and you have to treat them lightly and you still have to come at it a way. Because I can either come back and be like super mean and then it doesn't go anywhere, or soften up and say, okay, I hear your position. What's really going on? Because I will get calm and I only will get upset if it's a dangerous situation. Then I've only walked off like one set due to something. I said, this is dangerous. I'm not doing it. I walked off and I never came back. But for the most part, you just have to come at it with empathy, understanding, and everyone has a story. And I will find out like, hey, okay, what's really going on?
Yeah.
What's really going on? And then you'll find out, oh, they had a fight with their wife, or it's this, or something. I'm like, okay, well, hey, you know what? Why don't you take a break? Maybe you should take the rest of the day off if possible. We'll find a replacement or whatever. Then I just come at it from more of a human factor because we all have a story. I can't tell you how many days I've gone to say, and I have personal drama going on, and I'm like, and I got to hold it together.
Yeah.
And, then I kind of collapse at the end of the night sometimes. But again, I think just stopping, understanding and saying, okay, great. I mean, there are some people I literally have to fire because it's just, just not working out. And listen, I'm a boss.
Yeah.
I can't say every day is roses, but I have to still look at it from a different perspective. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a producer, right, because you've done everything from the bottom up, right?
Right.
So what is a job of a producer?
Well, okay, so a producer is generally is the creative force behind a project. That's why when you see Best Picture, they get the Oscar because they found the material, they put it together, they found the money, got the director, did the financing. They saw the whole package and put it together. 90% of what I do is more of a line producer, where the producer hires me. They're like, okay, how much does it cost? And so I break down the script and I create a budget line by line. That's why it's a line producer of how much every single thing is going to cost. And then I have to maintain that. So then when I'm on set.
Oh, Jesus, man. That sounds.
Oh, it's a ton of work.
Oh, God.
And so I have to, I get to hire maybe again, like the director gets to hire a few positions. I get to hire the rest or have my say. And I have to maintain that. So the line producer is really, I want to say the nuts and bolt on the ground because either myself or UPM, we're there first in and the last out. The producer just kind of comes in, again, there's hardworking producers and there's the other ones that show up and just sit in the chair and like, oh, hey, I'm the producer, go get me an iced coffee and, let me go talk to the hot chicks. That's not me. And the line producer, I feel, is always the one behind the scenes putting out the fires. And, I have to be like 2 days ahead.
Yeah.
Like what's really going on, what's happening, or, dealing with fallout from the previous day. So that's why the job is more demanding because I don't have time to sit down. And that's it. I rarely hey, Jones, sit down. I'm like, I don't have time.
Yeah.
And I get bored. I'm watching, okay, great. I saw a couple takes. That's awesome. Okay, I got to get back because I'm just moving and I don't stop. I mean, people will tell me like, hey, are you breathing? My daughter will literally call me. She'll be like, hey, Dad, are you breathing today? I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. Or it's like, Jones, did you eat? I'm like, oh. And they're like, stop and eat. So you can't just have coffee all day. And that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
So I'm getting better. And it's nice because I have a nice support team where I have, you know, my office staff to kind of protect me, and they will force me, okay, sit down, eat, have this, or they'll say, take 10 minutes. And then they'll say, go take 10 minutes, take off the walkies and the phone and just take 10 minutes, close your eyes and kind of recharge.
Yeah.
Because
that's so important.
It is.
It is.
And I forget that. And I really do, because I will go all day long, go. And next thing you know, like, I haven't eaten. It's been, 8 hours or something. So, yeah.
Man. Are you finding are you dieting well? Like,
I mean, that's another thing.
Because that's the hardest thing, I think, for a lot of people that are active as we are,
Yeah. I would say, again, due to COVID, I got involved with a workout that I do. And in the hard part, because it's a live class, I know I'm segueing, but it was hard in Atlanta because we were 3 hours ahead and I could never do the class because whenever she was doing her class, it would have been in the middle of my day. And I didn't. So I tried every night. I did at least 20 minutes on elliptical at the hotel gym. I just said, if I can do that, I'm happy. And I eat a lot better. Which is great. And I feel I'm maintaining and I have the stamina to go, and I'm happy about that. I'm working off a few pounds still from Atlanta, and I just went to Paris. So, but no, I mean, I think that is another key importance of making sure that you hydrate. I mean, I drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
My downfall is coffee. Mm-hmm. I'll have that all day long. Yep. And I love it. And if it's not hot coffee, then it's iced coffee. So, again, and this is where I'm helping my team. We're like, hey, and it's so great. I literally would come into my little, my honey wagon, and they'd have like trail mix for me, or like some like protein bars. And like, just take this, Jones. They all call me Jonesy or MJ. Just take this, Jones. Just take it. Have it on you. I'm like, okay. And I felt, again, because our body is our instrument, and you have to fuel it up like a car with gas. And if you don't, you're going to, and I do peter out. There's some days I'm zonked. Yeah. And it's a balance. I'm not very good at it. It's tough.
No, I mean, finding that balance, it's definitely that's what life is about, I think, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So you are, you've said this multiple times, you solve a lot of problems, right? So
yes.
Essentially you're a professional problem solver, right? And I think at any high level in any industry, that's what you become, right? A professional problem solver. So how do you approach problems, and what advice would you have for people that get just analysis paralysis, right? They get just shocked whenever they see a problem, and they go and hide.
Again, I'm able to look at it and say, all right, let's stop for a second. Instead of being reactionary, to stop. What can we do? What does this really mean? How do we solve it? Some things you have to say, okay, we can't do it. We have to move on. Otherwise, hey, we can do this. And I find oftentimes when you sit with that, or then you get the other people and you creatively come up with an idea, you have something even better. The last movie I just did, we had a lot of stunts, a lot of action, everything. And there was a sequence that I don't think financially we could do it for stunts or whatever the reason. And I had this, and I don't want to give it away because it's part of the movie. And I said, why don't we do this one thing? And everyone thought on it, and we shot it. And the studio was like, wow, that was a really good idea. It tied this one element into the movie, and they go, it was brilliant. And I saved like half the cost by doing it. And it was just one of those things, without telling the director, no, we can't do this. Like, let's just find another way. You're still getting the same result. Yeah. It's just now the action is going to happen differently. Again, I mean, it happens. I use examples sometimes when I teach. Like, okay, let's say you're doing a scene of, a couple, and they're going to break up at the park. And let's say you get to set the date and it's storming. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, we're freaking. And I always go back to, well, what was the scene about? The scene was them breaking up. It doesn't have to be at the park. Maybe it's in the car. They're driving there. And once I get people to realize, oh, okay, you can still make your day. You can still do it. It just means you're just, instead of exterior, you're interior. And these are like little things I come up with, little ideas. But I try to think at it from all points of view. How do we do it? And again, and I don't know, and I ask for advice too. I only know my own strength. So I say, hey, everyone else, what do we do? How do we come up with an idea? And that's when I love to problem solve with other people and be creative in that sense. I just don't freak out.
I think what I got out of that, and that's why I was smiling like an idiot over here, is because me, every time I make a plan, that plan is in stone, and anytime I deviate, I have panic attacks, right?
Right.
And it sounds like for you, like no plan is ever like we have a plan, we have a few plans, but nothing's set in stone. Like we can always pivot. And I think like, you touched on that with COVID, that allowed like COVID, the whole world pivoted. And I think that was an eye-opening experience for all of us, especially for me, because I was worried about my own business.
Right.
And we allowed to pivot, and everything just came full circle. So thank you for that. That was huge.
No,
that was an epiphany for me.
No, that's good. I'm glad. Yeah. I never know what's going to happen. I have stuff change all the time, and you have to learn to go with the flow and be like, okay, all right, and
so
then what?
Given all the experience that you have, 30 years,
Right.
We have this young gentleman here. He's a young producer.
Nice.
What advice would you give to him to keep him going? I mean, it's a tough grind, right?
The question is, again, you have to ask yourself, what type of producer do you want to be? Do you want to be a creative producer where you develop and find the content? Do you want to be a line producer? Do you want to be a coordinating producer? Post supervisor producer? There's different aspects. So I would say the first thing is you want to be involved with good material. That's just key. And the one thing I've been trying to pitch, again, as a producer, I've been optioning projects, material, or I read scripts. I'm trying to send it and pitch it. And everyone always comes back, I have a good eye. They say, wow, you have a good eye, Jones. You're bringing us good material, not bringing us crap, which is great. This is now getting over the hump of getting the money and the financing. So I would say, look at good material. Watch other films in the sense of, what do you want to do? So like, here's one advice somebody told me to writers. If you want to get really good writing, go back and at least try to find scripts of the past few years that actually won the Oscars. How are those written? What's the tone? What's the tempo? Yeah. That doesn't mean you have to copy it. It just it's to get guidance. So there's certain films, certain filmmakers that I like. I'm like, okay, I like this tone. I like this aesthetic. What is good material? I'm also personally always thinking, again, what's ahead? So right now, what's the hottest thing right now? I'm not even using Marvel, but let's say when it was vampires, all right, and it was Twilight, all that shit. Everyone's doing that. For me, I'm like, oh, what's 2 years ahead? Because it takes a year for something to get made. Yeah. So let's say I did it and it comes out a year. Well, then they're on the werewolves now. So I'm always looking, what's the next werewolf? What's the next thing next year? I don't care about right now. I'm always looking what's ahead. What's the tone? These kids that are 12 and 13, they're going to be 14 and 15 next year. What are they going to be into? So I'm always thinking, what's the audience looking at? What's our trend? Where are we going as, a country or whatever, or people? Again, did you notice that during the whole Trump world, people were watching more comedies than anything? They needed laughter. They needed to get out of all that crap. And all the comedies on the romance were going way up. There was a lot of, the action ones kind of toned down. So again, I look at things and where we are in the world. And this is personally for me, I look at positivity. Yeah. What are some things that can be a little bit more positive? What's a good feel-good story or something? I don't know if I want to be doing some horror movie right now. I'm not saying I don't want to. I'm not in that mindset. Yeah. And I told my agent, just don't put me up for those. I just don't want to do those. Yeah. Because I feel like we need to go into a new direction. I know I'm all over the place.
No. But you approach it more from like a marketing aspect rather than like, because like what I always used to approach things as like an artist, like what I felt art was. And nobody gave a shit about that, right? So the marketing aspect, that makes perfect sense.
Well, so go back to you as a producer. Yeah. What's your comfort zone? What do you want to do? What makes you feel good? Like when you want, like, wow, I really like watching that show. That's great. Oh, I don't like that. So what's going to make you feel happy and like, oh man, I'm so into that show or into that thing. I want to give it my all. Yeah. And then the other thing I say, it does help to know the different positions. Hang out with them.
Yeah.
Really find, okay, art director, what do you do? Okay, grip, what does that do? Okay, whatever. And get a sense of it, because at the end of the day, as a producer, you are in charge of all those people and they all need to work fluidly together. And that's why it's a project manager, whether it's movies or it's finance or it's construction or, real anything. How do you manage all these different people with different attributes to get to one common goal? I'm always amazed any of this stuff gets made.
Yeah.
Literally,
Right.
you've got 50, 60 people and each one has a different department, their own agenda. And you're like, oh my gosh. Because wardrobe designer has her tone and her look in mind, but the director's like, no, I want this. And they're going to fight back and forth. Even though the director has a say, that person has a say. Now, construction wants to build it this way and props has got this thing. And, everyone, I'm always literally amazed. It all comes together for your 90-minute, your 2-hour magic that you see. Right. So I would say read. I'm always reading. What's next on the forefront? What are, again, as a producer, the other thing, I deal with a lot of contracts. So you really want to know your contracts, your releases. If you're dealing with the unions, what are the current, the rates, because every 3 years it changes. So you always want to be on top of that. You don't want to be behind. And it changes because Atlanta was different than New Mexico. I'm doing a budget right now for Nebraska. That's completely different. So you want to know where you want to know your location, where you're going to be. So I would say that's the one thing as a producer, and I'm always asking questions. I always humble myself. I've never, in the way I work, I do not put that title and walk around with the airs on it. That's just how I've learned. I don't do that. Yeah. It's not important to me. People are going to know who I am and they're going to respect me for who I am. I don't need to walk around. I'm the producer. And I could care less about that. My goal is always to get the job done and be fair and honest with everybody. Because I feel respect is so much more important than titles. And that's just me. I know people that are so angry, they yell and scream if they don't get their chair, if they don't get their copy. And I'm like, dude, let it go. Yeah. There's so many other things. So just as a producer, you're managing the project, you're managing people. And again, what's going to be passionate for you? I think back in the day, I would probably take jobs. I needed the job. And now I'm like, I don't need it. I don't care about the titles. Yeah. There's certain things that I'll do and I don't even want the title. I don't care. I'll do it just because it's fun. I'll help you out. Not all the time, but so I think research is good. Okay. I'm always learning or asking questions or trying to find out what the new thing is that I need to know. So.
How would somebody get a project? Let's say they found good content. Let's say they have a good little core team. How would they get the project off the ground?
Well, it depends if it's TV or movies. It's such a business where you fight your way to get in through the door because so many people are trying to get through the same door and get into someone's hands. Again, having good material, knowing what's written in dialogue. Let's start because you don't have anything unless you have a script. I think the story is important. Really having that is crucial. And again, really knowing what you want. Because everyone says, I got a script. That's great. Then what? And the problem was with writers, they write everything and they don't realize everything costs money. And that's where my job is, okay, well, you can't afford that. You've written every single thing in the world. And again, I tell people, you either have to raise the budget to meet the script or you have to cut the script to meet the budget. You can't have, that's the only way it works. So you have to be realistic, find material and develop and say, okay, this works. And if you're the creator, what's the tone? What's the look? What's the feel? Who do you want? I want someone to direct this. Okay, why? What else have they done? You don't want to get some action person to direct, a romantic comedy. They might not be able to translate. So you want to find like-minded people. Again, let's say you have a project, I wouldn't pitch a Downton Abbey type project to Blumhouse who only does horror movies. They're going to get that out of our face. You got to look and know who you're pitching to. I'm sure it's the same way with real estate and everything else. Like, your market, you're going to cater to what's right and your areas and what people want. So
I do see a big parallel with the film industry and real estate, like developers and producers. Right. Same concept.
You're managing. Yeah. And again, it's finding the best, you're building a house. You want the best material. You're not going to go cheesy with some here's some really cheap wood and, concrete or whatever. You want to go at least high end. It's the same thing with scripts or projects. You can look at something and tell what's high end and what's low end. you can just tell, like, oh my God, that is such crap.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm amazed. But even then, I have to give those people credit because they got it done.
Yeah.
And I will totally give people respect. Like, even if it's crap, you still got it done more so than the person that just talks about it. And that's the difference.
That's true.
So I literally, because I have a lot of people that send me stuff, and some stuff it's unbearable, it's unreadable, but I will always respond to, you know what? You did a good job. You actually took the time and you wrote something. I have so many people and friends, they talk about it. People for 10 years, like, where's the script? Oh, I don't have the time. I'm like, really? That's funny because J.K. Rowling was writing her book on Post-it notes. She was homeless. She found a way.
Yeah.
Oh, I never have time. I'm like, really? We all have 5 minutes on the pot. You can't tell me you can't write for 5 minutes or you can't use your audio. I told someone the other day, I said, you know, you have the audio app on your phone.
Yeah.
Interior, day one, nighttime, whatever. There's no more excuses. And now, I don't get, like, really? Steven Soderbergh shooting on iPhone 13. You can't there's no more excuses anymore for anybody.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, it's like, all right, then either you want to do it or you don't, or you like the idea of saying it. Mm-hmm. And people ask me, well, oh, Jones, how come you're doing so well? Why put in the work?
Yeah.
It's like Steph Curry, any of these guys, they put in the work. You have a bad night, you put in the work. Hey, you see those guys like Michael Jordan, Kobe, or Larry Bird, they'd miss a free throw. Those guys would stay in the gym and shoot like another 500 shots after a game till they got it right. You can't just show up. Again, I don't know if anybody has seen Free Solo. That's where Alex Honnold, he did the free solo climb on El Capitan.
Oh, no. But I've definitely wanted to.
Oh, please watch it. Please.
Yeah,
and that's another amazing thing. And he's like, I went to a talk he went to is like, everyone thinks they watch a 90-minute movie and you just climb it. It's like, no, I've done this.
Yeah.
I took 50 different tries to make sure I got it right. You know, you got to put in the work. And anyway, that's the ethic. And so many people nowadays, they just want to just jump to it and they want to, skip all the steps.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you have to do all the steps.
Yeah. I love it. One of our brokers, Keith, always says we live in a microwave society, right? We just expect to put it in and it's be done in 30 seconds.
And even that, even myself, God darn it, the microwave is so slow.
Right?
Come on.
Yeah. I gotta wait 2 minutes. I gotta wait 2 minutes for this.
Exactly.
Well, I love all that advice that you just gave because I know Kiki said producer, but more specifically, I want to do like directing, writing, and even acting because I from a kid, that's all I've ever wanted to do, really. Right. But I think the advice that you gave on everything now applies really to any of those departments.
Yeah.
You can, doing the research is huge. Reading scripts of movies that you like, trying to make the movie that you want to see.
Right.
And so that's all great. And I'm currently trying to do a commercial actually right now for Kiki.
Nice. And I love because he was very much like, he came up with this beautiful idea. And I was like, cool, let's shoot tomorrow. And he's like, we got a budget, we got a plan for it. We can't just,
There are some things because you don't want to fail. And I would say that's important. Like, I have no desire to direct. Mm-hmm. I do not have any desire. I respect directors. And the good thing is I have the sense of how to help out scenes. And that's where I come in and I can help a director. Hey, you know what? If you did this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm really good at that. Again, so I know my strengths. There's some things I'm like, oh, I don't know how to do that at all. I'm completely lost. I need help. Mm-hmm. And I'm not afraid to still say I need help. Because none of us knows everything. And I like helping people and I like teaching. And so again, I go back to if you are directing, who do you like? What's the style? What do you want to do? And then if that's the case, learn. Mm-hmm. There's only 8 basic shots. That's the whole thing. And that's the other thing too. There's 8 basic shots in the rule of filmmaking. And I tell people, and I used to get scared and someone gave me some good advice. The only difference between a $1,000 short film and a $100 million movie is one thing. You're adding more zeros. Mm-hmm. That's it. You still have to do the same exact. You need a permit. You need bathrooms. Are you shooting inside or outside? Are you shooting daytime or nighttime? And how many people? Mm-hmm. That's it. Those things never change. And once you realize that, all I'm doing is I'm the same process. I'm just spending more money.
Yeah.
Instead of $10 for lunch, $20 for lunch. You make $20 an hour. Now you're making $40. That's the only difference. Mm-hmm. And when I realize as I'm older, and this is why my time is so precious, when somebody comes to me, hey, Jones, we want to do a short film project or whatever. Well, the same amount of work goes into it as some of the bigger ones. And do I have the time to put into that?
Yeah.
What's the outcome? And I have to look at that, and I have to be strategic sometimes. I'll do favors every now and then, but nonetheless, I also have bills to pay. But it's a lot of work. And I'm like, oh my God, that's just as much work as if I was going to do a 3-week film. Like, no, I don't need to. So again, learn, ask questions, and then don't be afraid to play around with it. Get some friends and shop out some ideas and test it out and say, okay, great, this works. I like this. This feels good to me. This doesn't feel good to me. And then again, what you're going to be into.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps.
No, definitely. And in terms of pitching too, because that's kind of a big question mark, especially for any student coming right out of film school.
Right.
Is like, let's say they have it. Let's say they wrote the pilot. Let's say they have the pitch deck, the sizzle reel,
right.
or the Bible, whatever. Now what? How, knowing nobody, essentially.
Right.
How do they get that how do they pitch that to somebody?
I tell people that your best tool is going to be the IMDb, the Internet Movie Database. And what you do is, again, whatever your content is, let's say it's a really good indie drama. All right, you're going to go to A24. If it's a horror, you want to go to Blumhouse. If it's going to be, action, whatever, you might want to go to, whatever. So research the companies, or let's say it's a like-minded films like yours. Who put those out recently? Get on the IMDb and you look up, and generally it says, okay, here's the company, here's the contact information. If you have IMDb Pro, you'll have access to the emails and to the phone numbers if it's listed, and you cold call. And this is what I do sometimes. Or I'll send a query letter. Hey, my name is Michael. I've got a project. If you're interested. A lot of stuff I do is I try to go through backdoor channels through a friend of a friend. It's a lot easier. Oh, hey, my friend Michael might call you, blah, blah, blah. That's a lot easier.
Yeah.
They'll take the call as opposed to, because I have a ton of people send me stuff and I don't have time to get to it. So I know it's the same thing when they don't get back to me. There's other people up the echelon. So again, try to find a way, if you know someone, to get it in, or you find a producer, and again, you like to start with what they've been doing, and hey, or the other thing is someone who's up and coming. Someone's up and coming. That's all I do. I'm always on the IMDb looking, and I'm networking, and I'm trying to find. I was doing that yesterday. There's a project I've optioned. I optioned a novel, and we're trying to go after somebody, and it's just we're hitting the wall. Now we have to go through the agent, and then the great thing about the IMDb, it's like this rabbit hole. You click on one link, and you say, "Oh, that person knows so and so. I actually know them." So now it becomes this little thing. It's almost like this puzzle piece.
Yeah.
So those are the little tips I would kind of.
That's
give.
great.
The other thing I tell people too, this is when I would tell people trying to look for a job. If you go on the IMDb and you click, what you want to do is you want to click, you can click a button and you type in where you live, your city or your zip code. And you say, what's in pre-development? Because you want to get it from the ground floor, and you'll get a list. So let's say you pick New Mexico, Albuquerque. It'll say, all right, there's 10 projects and you want to go in pre-development. Hit those people, cold call. Hey, my name is Michael. I got here's my resume, blah, blah, blah. I can't tell you how many times I've just cold call, and I actually will get a call every now and then. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but that's another good step.
Yeah.
That's going to be a lot quicker than just waiting, or, again, you just always have to be proactive. I'm always searching. So that's something I would tell students is start to learn that program because it's important.
Resourcefulness.
And it's free for the most part. So.
Resourcefulness. Yeah. Love it.
That's the first time I've ever heard that tip.
Yeah, that me too. I love it though. Because it is just going, it's so logical, right? It's a logical thing to do, but.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, and also too, I think, again, just be realistic about who you're approaching and why and what. I think that's interesting, and get to know people and vet it. But again, it's really doing the research and finding out what they do, because again, certain people do certain projects, and you don't want to send them something that's completely out of their wheelhouse. I'm like, why are you sending? Like, people send me stuff. I clearly say what I want or what I don't want, and they still send me stuff. I'm like, I've been very adamant. I do not want this type of material. Why do you send it to me?
Yeah.
And then what I don't like is when they continue to email me. I'm like, I've said it no, and I've been very nice, but please, now I'm going to block you.
Yeah.
So there's the level of consistency, right? Because you guys are busy. Right. You have projects that stack up. You might not get to it this year, but it's something you might be interested in.
Yeah, right.
How do you walk that line of being consistent but not?
And it's tough because everything changes. I mean, it's not easy. And, again, I have projects that people give to me, which are solid and I like, but then it's up to the hands of the other people. And like, I'm in a queue again, I'm fortunate and I have people that I know, but there's people ahead of me with their own stuff. So I have to be patient as well. And like, for instance, this book thing has now come back full circle, like over a year ago, because it kind of sat and now a producer's reached out and there's interest. And now it has some momentum again and it changes. And you look at things that they don't happen right away. It does take a while. And everyone, you'll hear those stories like so-and-so got it and just became an overnight success. A lot of this stuff takes time. It's gone through different incarnations. It's been changed. It's gone through, different people. I was a PA, a production assistant on a movie called I Am Legend. All right.
Oh, yeah.
At Warner Brothers. Hold up. With Arnold Schwarzenegger and Ridley Scott was directing.
Wow.
This was 10 years before the one you saw with Will Smith. So I was just the office PA. So that shows you that took 10 years and it went through another incarnation where it's been Kurt Russell and it kept getting thrown away. And all of a sudden you saw a different version. And that happens all the time with movies or projects.
Wow.
Where something is coming back after the fact, or something such and such was a hit. Oh, let's go redo that. Or now, as you can see, when they reboot everything, it makes money. Oh, let's come back. Let's start the whole Scream franchise from start. Or, let's bring back, Nash Bridges, all these things. And you're like, okay, again, it's the temperament, it's the tone. It might sit on someone's desk for a long time. I remember I went to a class one night in Clint Eastwood. He spoke and it was great. And he was talking about how Unforgiven sat in his assistant's desk for 10 years because she didn't think he would want to do it. And then one day he found the script and he's reading it. He's like, where's this been? She's like, it's been sitting for like 10 years.
Wow.
And then Unforgiven won all the awards. I'm saying, so, timing, or you never know. And so I never give up. And I tell people too, be patient. I have people, I pitch things or whatever. And then people, well, how come it's not happening? How come it's not happening? I'm like, it takes time. It takes a minute. It's just patience. And if you're in it for the long haul and you don't give up, I think that's the key.
Yeah.
Not giving up and still believing in something. Say, okay, it might not happen now, but it will. And
I like that teaches you not to put all your eggs in one basket. Though,
Absolutely. And that's why you do want to diversify.
Yeah.
And you do want to put your hands in different things. So that way, when something hits, you're ready. You're not just locked into only one thing like, oh my gosh. So I think it is good to, as a producer, you want to have different material that you want to pitch. I have this novel I optioned. I have a couple of scripts I've optioned. I have a TV series I've optioned. I have reality stuff that people have given me. So I have my hand and I'm trying to pitch it to different people. Mm-hmm. And the same thing, it's all a chess game. And, I'm trying to make my moves. They're trying to make their moves. And remember, they're trying to do their own thing and they have their own projects and they've got their own friends first. So everyone's got their hand somewhere and it continually is like this shift. And you're like, and then finally once something hits, you're like, okay, great. Stick to it and then follow through. And that's why it's so important you never know who you're going to work with. You never know how it's going to come back and in what position they're going to be in. I can't tell you how many PAs I know who have going to be directors or, big time actors or whatever. And, it's a small circle. It really is. Mm-hmm. So you want to be humble. You want to be kind of cool. I mean, I've got people I don't like. I've got people that don't like me and that's fine. But you know what? I'm still professional and, I just don't indulge with it. I don't engage in it. And, when people try to tear me down and talk about me, I ignore it. And I always have to think, just Jay-Z, get it off your shoulder. Yeah. That's your own insecurities. You want to put your failure on me? Go ahead. That's fine. I don't even have time to think about it. Yeah. I'm not looking at you. I'm looking past you.
Most of my inspirational quotes come from hip hop as well.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always using Jay-Z. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it's so truthful. And again, everything changes. And I don't know.
So what, in your 30 years, so you're probably not going to think of the one, but what's like one of the most interesting thing that's kind of happened in that? Because film industry is a wild industry, right? So what's a cool story you could share with some some of our listeners?
You know, I have a lot. I mean, I have so many funny stories. I should probably do a book about it. I think just being in, you know, interesting places. I think, you know, one of the best projects I did was a movie called Violet that was written and directed by Justine Bateman. We did that a few years ago. And the whole movie was really just about this, dealing with our inner self and how to turn off the voice. Mm-hmm. Because everyone has that voice that is your constant negative detractor. Like, why are you wearing that? Don't wear that. You're fat today. You
The maladaptions of
all
our
of
life,
that.
yeah.
And the whole story is about doing the opposite, turning that off. Like, it's the what if. And I use that nowadays with people, and I'm like, okay, what if? What if? What if? And you really break it down and you realize it's the story that you create in your head. It's all bullshit half the time.
Yeah.
It really is. And so I think that was one that I feel really good and proud of because it was in line of my thinking, of how I think. And, you know, I use vision boards and I always have to see clarity ahead and I have to picture myself in success. So I felt like that's a really good one. And those are just good opportunities. But I don't know. I've had so many different, you know, interactions with people through the years. And I just stop and I listen and I learn.
Yeah.
And I ask questions. And that's one of the fun things I love to, you know, to be around. And I just glean knowledge and I ask questions. I'm like, okay, you know, that's kind of cool. How'd you do that? And I find that interesting. I just love hearing stories from people on set and, you know, their horror stories or, you know, their expertise or their advice. I love to take advice.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really into that.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
What about, and I've always wanted to just sit down and ask you every question I could think of.
Sure.
And now I can't think of.
That's all right.
Well, mindset, you clearly have a strong mindset. And since the beginning, I mean, at the beginning of the show, you said you didn't know how, but you were going to get on that show when you were in high school, and you did it.
Yeah, I did.
And so, I mean,
there are things like that still, it's so funny. Like I kind of have this attitude where, why not? Like I would walk into situations, and the good thing is with my name, Michael Jones, there's always one. And I go, oh, Mike Jones +1. Always on a list. And like, oh yeah, come right in. The problem, I have no issue like doing this for other people. Like if you said, hey, I need help, boom, like with intent, it's a little bit harder for me sometimes to apply it, but I do. But I'm like, I don't know. I just have that attitude of why not? Mm-hmm. I belong here. And I have a say. You know, I can get completely scared in my mind doing something. I'm like, no. I can do this. I can totally pull this off. There's absolutely no reason not to do that. And, you know, I think, again, it's about having confidence and just knowing what you're doing. So here's one of the things. When you're working in, I'll say, movie business, one of the biggest things is dealing with the unions. Mm-hmm. And either people love it or hate it. And it can be scary. And when you're like starting off, because there's this idea, it's, you know, mafia and they're harsh or whatever. You know, I go in there with open arms and I'm humble and I say, help me. And one of my best things I did was in Atlanta, I landed and, you know, Teamsters, I love my Teamsters. Teamsters, as you know, they have a I don't know, whatever they're known for. They can be tough. And I went in there, I sat down, I got, you know, 3 big giant guys. These guys are like humongous. I sat down and I said, here's how much I have. Here's what I can do. Help me. And by doing that out the gate, saved me instead of trying to hide it. And this is something that I just tell people, just learned. You just go in there and you just ask yourself, how can you help me? Mm-hmm. So I can help you too. Because I want to employ your guys. I can't afford 20. I can afford 10. How do we make it work? And then great. Then we work out an agreement. And now, boom, that's off my shoulder. I don't have any more stress because that deal is done. Yeah. As opposed to like, oh my gosh, stress, how do I do? And being afraid because there is that fear. Because people have this idea, oh my gosh, it's bigger than me. It's not bigger than you. You're letting it become bigger than you. And you don't need to do that. You be bigger than that. And I think once you realize that, like anybody, it's just another human being. We're all in the same position.
Yeah.
And once you have that idea, like, oh my gosh, I can totally do that. Why not? I can totally do that. It's the same thing when I used to be afraid when people ask me how much I charge for budgets or scheduling. And I used to be, oh, I don't know. And that's why I got the same result. Oh, I got that. I never got a real payment. Now, Here's my rates. This is what I do. If you don't like it, nice to meet you. I'm going to continue on moving forward. And 9 times out of 10, they'll pay it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, great. And I had to set that mark and not go below it. And that's something too where for me, what's important is setting intentions. And I have to stick to those intentions. Like I'm writing out right now a new vision board for myself of some new things. I have some goals. And I might not hit all of them, but I know I'll hit some of them. And for me, I have to hit goals that are realistic. I'm not going to say, this is what I learned from like Tony Robbins, those guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to make $1 million by next year. I'm never going to believe that. Can I make an extra 100,000? That I can believe. So when I believe in that mentality, I hit that. Now I want to make 200. I'm just saying that's an example. So you allow yourself to have a win. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing when I tell people when we're doing a schedule on a movie. Let's have a day that's doable because it's the win. So now all 70 of us feel like, oh my gosh, we accomplished the day. We made it. Now you can get over the next hump. Because if you try to go too big and too ambitious and you don't, you're just like, you set yourself up for failure. So allow yourself to have opportunities that are realistic. Then you feel better and you kind of keep setting the goal higher and higher and higher. So these are the little tips I've learned or I train myself or what I try to give to other people. That just helps me move forward in my own, whether it's in my relationships with my kids, my girlfriend, whatever. It's, what's the communication? What's the tone? What are we talking about? What's our intention? My girlfriend and I are talking about right now. What are our new intentions as we're getting older? What's that next set? And again, we have our individual, but then we have it as a couple. And again, I know I'm all segueing, but this is why it's so important to really be on the same page.
Yeah.
What's your common goal with whoever you're working with or dealing with?
I love that you're a goal setter and you have the mindset to accomplish it.
Yeah. It's highly important. And if you look at anyone with success, they have goals.
Yeah.
And I don't know, again, it's a work thing. It doesn't just happen, but at least you have to see yourself in it. And I've always seen myself from a little kid being in the movie business. And here's the funny thing, the irony of all this, or the hysterical part is, all the movies I've done recently, the director's always throwing me in the movie as an actor.
Yeah.
So I'm still acting. Mm-hmm. I might get a line, I get a part, but I'm still a part of it.
Yeah.
I just don't pursue it. And again, so it still comes full circle by me being me, I'm still getting to do what I love. So
that's perfect.
Yeah, I don't know.
You said everything I needed to hear. I've been needing to hear.
Well, good. I'm glad.
I mean, do you remember? Do you remember starting out?
As an actor or just in the business?
Just in the business.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I go back to it. I
think of like, do you remember your hardest day starting off?
No, I mean, I don't know. Not really.
Because that's what I love, right? Is you're 30 years in, you've gotten to a certain level, and your hardest day starting off, it's not even like something that's front of mind.
Oh, right. Like at the time, it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, I'm done.
No, I think I was young. My biggest day I've worked was 33 hours. Wow. I did 2 shoots back to back. Yeah, that's when I was like 21. I was like, I can do it all. I don't need sleep, whatever. And I drove the RV. I mean, I'll never do that again. But it's funny, like, my kids, I love my kids are adults. And my daughter, because it's the same thing with my kids. I'm always pumping them with positivity. And now they get it. That's the great thing. They actually get it now. And my daughter's like, she was like, Dad, you know what? She goes, what I respect about you is you've never given up. Mm-hmm. She goes, you set a goal. You've been in this business. And you're always working. And again, I'm not super successful. And I'm okay with that. I'm happy with what I do. I've just been consistent. I'm like a role player. I've been consistent and I've been working and I know how to navigate the field. But she said, you're always positive. You've always just been doing what you love because I don't want to do anything else. I just don't want to do it. And I've tried different jobs. I've done all the jobs out there and I realized that's just not for me.
Yeah.
This is what I love. I love the entertainment business. But now I enjoy just being around people and teaching has been a new thing and just, whatever it is. But I don't know. Yeah, I've had hard days where everything goes wrong and everyone's yelling and screaming at you and it's the end of the world and you get over. It's so funny. Like, okay, so the last movie, we're having a day and this is the problem. This is where my positivity gets me in trouble. I deal with stuff more, I shrug it off and something happened and we were on a text thread And I sent an emoji. Sometimes I do too many emojis where it was something just, it was one of these like, let it roll off your shoulder. Well, the main producer went livid. He called me up. He chewed me out. He was so pissed off. He was so mad at me. Now, this is someone I know. And I know how to deal with him and just to be calm. Because he goes from 0 to 1,000 like in 10 seconds. And he just ruined me a new one. And I just sat there and I listened. And I said, I'm sorry. And then I let it cool down. And he called me back. And he goes, I apologize. He goes, I'm so sorry for the way I treated you. He goes, I knew your intentions were good, whatever. And I said, listen, I just made light of a situation. Everyone was all stressed out. And I came from a more like, come on, guys, it's humor. Like, let it go. Yeah. And again, by me being calm and not being confrontational, it allowed him to cool down and him to realize, oh, okay, he jumped the gun for no reason. Anyway, these are just little things I've just learned to not let things blow over. I let things blow over and not get too stressed because it's always going to work itself out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right. So.
You can't take life too seriously.
No, I mean, and it sucks. And listen, I'm not going to say there's not days that you do feel like, oh my gosh, but it's never the end of the world. It really isn't.
Yeah.
There's so many things that come out of those beautiful mistakes. You look at that, so many things that it didn't work. Okay, perfect example, Jaws. We all know Jaws, the movie. And the whole reason why the movie worked is because the shark didn't work.
Yeah.
Watch the documentary. The shark was broken. It never worked. And that's what made it, because then it was suspenseful. Less is more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a beautiful mistake. That's also the first movie ever to gross $100 million. That's why it's called the summer blockbuster.
Oh. I didn't know that.
There you go. I love that.
I'm full of random tidbits like that. But those are beautiful things. And you're like, oh, or like, okay, the camera broke on this day or whatever. And you're like, oh my God, that was brilliant. And so I'm always trying to find stories like that. Or when I remind people, yeah, it is never the end of the world. Mm-hmm. You're going to be okay. You're going to be fine.
Yeah.
So you move on. Or you realize that wasn't for you. I don't know.
Yeah. But that's inspiring, though, because I wish more people in the industry were like you. That's something that me and my friends, we have that mentality of like, we want to create a shift where there are, like the image when you think movie industry is people like yelling at each other and where's my coffee? And it's just like very charged,
right?
Negatively charged. And we've always said that like when we get there, we don't want to do that. We want to create a shift where it's like, why can't it be fun and, not so like uptight all the time, still get the job done, but not be at each other's throats the entire shoot. So that's inspiring to see.
I think that's why like so many like independent studios started emerging.
Yeah.
It was because they started getting away from that corporate feel of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think so too. You don't need the yellers and screamers. We all know who they are. You don't need it. What does it really serve you? It's more stress. Again, someone was yelling and screaming at me when I was very calm. I said, are you done? I said, are you done? I said, because you're going to have a heart attack. And I explained the reason why there was something they were yelling at and it was completely wrong. And they, again, oh, shoot, I made a mistake. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I don't need to yell and scream and get all red and puffy. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Why stress myself out for that? I'm not going to die for your shoot.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This is not worth it. Yeah, I might not be upset or things go wrong, but there's a reality check for everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's I love it because you clearly have a lot of control on your emotions, right? Because I would love to not just to be more passive on a lot. Not that I get up and all red and puffy or anything,
right,
but just to be more like it's all right. Like we can work through this. And I think that your little epiphany that you gave me was
oh, all right.
that was a big one.
Oh, that's good. I really just I like to, but again, sometimes I have used sarcasm or humor, and I call people out with that. I'm like, really, okay, and I just when I do from then, when I see them crack a smile or whatever, I'm like, okay, it's the little things, Again, it's just how you are. It's how you are perceived, and how you are, and how you treat other people. One of the other tips that I do, I think everything out. So on this movie I just did, I knew it was important for me day one. You have to set the tone day one if you are the boss, if you're the producer. And I like to wear linen shirts, jeans, and boots. That's like my favorite go-to. And I love it. It's the lightest thing for me. But I knew I can't start off day one that way. I got to go blue collar. So I wore black jeans, boots, a black shirt, and I had a vest. And I went 5:30 in the morning, and I went to the team shows, and every crew person, I shook all their hands, hey, good morning, guys, how you doing, whatever, blah, blah. And that set the tone. Because I needed them to see me in that reality, and not, oh, look at this guy dressed up in the morning and looking all cute and pretty like a producer. Fuck him. So I don't know if I can curse or not.
No, you're
I
good.
apologize.
You're good.
I've been very good about not cursing, sorry. And I think that set the tone. And I told my boss at the studio that, and they're like, you pre-thought that? I'm like, yeah. And it made a difference. It really did. Because I could have shown up the other way, and they would have been like, this guy, producer, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, no.
So then my day 5, when I wear that outfit, they already know me and love me, and then that's my outfit the rest of the shoot.
Yeah.
And again, you just have to look, again, where are you? Your circumstance. How do you do things? How do you interact? And how do you come off? And again, I'm still very genuine. I mean, I'm not trying to be, fake. It just, I knew how to assess my situation.
From chess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
From chess. I'm born and raised in Oakland. I know when I go visit my cousins in the hood, I know how to navigate. I also know how to navigate Beverly Hills or, Atlanta now or whatever. I'm always like, what's the situation? Who am I with? What am I doing? Blah, blah. And that all determines certain aspects. You just have to I call it just part of the work ethic. What's your uniform of the day?
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome. I love that. So the name of this podcast is Grit, Grind, and Hustle. So as you can see on our wall, those are my pillars that I put for success.
Love it.
So which one, or of them, which one do you feel like you encompass more?
Right now I've really been doing a lot of faith over fear. It's been kind of a good mantra.
Okay.
And just, I believe, yes, I can. Are the other ones? Yes, I can. And why not? Everybody else has an opportunity. They just take the steps to make it so, so can I. Yes, I can. Yes, we can. Anything's possible. I don't know all the ones that you have, but yeah.
I put that through that based on what you're saying, the yes, I can. I put that more in like the grit category as far as like overcoming. Because again, that's the biggest part of, that's a big part of success is overcoming all the shit. Right?
I think also just showing up.
Yeah.
Just showing up. Yesterday I posted something after I worked out, and I was frustrated because it's a live class. It's great, and she called me out, and I was frustrated, and she's like, "Let your frustration be your motivation," and I did, and I powered through, and it sucked, and I'm gonna do more push-ups, whatever, but I powered through because I can't sit here like, oh, I want the results and not put in the work.
Yeah,
I can't just show up and be fit. I'm like, okay, I got to put in the work, and so 60 minutes. To get the results I need over a few days, okay, it's worth it. And I always have to remind myself, all right, and those are the things, and I love the fact too that you have the mentality and you have that winner mentality of success and going after it. And that's where I want to be with other winners. People that see that, and I really have done a lot of shaking off people that just there's a lot of people that cling to me or want to cling to me. And it's the people when they see me doing well or anything, if I'm just happy, because I am 90% of anything I post is always positive and happy. And people are like, why are you so happy? What's going on? I'm single, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, did you do the work? Did you set out to the universe what you want? Yeah. Or you're going to sit there and you're going to complain. You're going to do this or you're going to whatever. Did you, you've been bitching about the book. Did you actually take the steps to write it? Oh no, I don't have the time. I'm like, really? Well, I don't have the time, and I'm doing 20 projects. I'm literally doing 20 things at once. That's just the way my brain works. I don't even know how not to function. Yeah. So, that's where I'm like, I want to be with more people like that. More people that not only lift me up, but lift themselves up. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things I love is really being around people like-minded, and there's that collective energy, and you see like, oh my gosh, it's so much better to be above the clouds than to be in it in the muck. And this is why I can't watch certain things anymore. I don't watch stuff. I'm saying there's just limits. I can't handle that right now. I got to be in the light.
Nope.
I got to only watch fun stuff right now, or only this music, or whatever. I don't know. It's a weird thing. And as you get older and you learn this, you're like, oh, this makes way more sense. And it's so much easier now than it was then. Why fight all the time? Mm-hmm. But you can still be strong and set your goals and set your intentions. But again, you just have to believe in it. You have to believe in it. And so many people set themselves up to where they're never going to believe it. Yeah. It's fun. I was at a retreat, Landmark. I don't know if you guys have heard of Landmark. No. Landmark's pretty amazing. It's one of these things that people either love it or hate it. Again, it's intensive 3 days. It's intensive. And again, same thing. I just sit there and I'm sitting next to a lady and she had this whole thing. I want to write a book in a year. I can't. I sat there. I said, okay, well, so why don't you just write a page a day? Then you have 365 pages at the end of the year. You have a book. And she's like, oh my gosh, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you're trying to like do it in 30 days. Just take your time and do it right. And once you stop and you just break it down in that simple math, I use a lot of math. I'm like, then it's easier.
Yeah.
He does too. Kiki loves math.
It's the exact way I go about all my goals. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anything I do when it comes to like budgeting and scheduling, or I tell people, I say, it's just math.
Yeah.
You figure it out. I only have so many days. I only have, there's this many people times this, it costs that. When people are like, why does it cost so much? I'm like, it's common sense.
Yeah.
It's $7 a gallon. We got to go 300 miles. That's, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, huh? I'm like, it's just math, guys. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
But again, my point is people overwhelm themselves instead of saying, oh, that's right. If I did a page a day, oh, that does get to a book, or I do whatever. Whatever it is, it's not that hard. But we have this idea that I think people put stress on us. We put stress on ourselves.
Yes, 100%.
That we can't do it. Another little tip I do is I put affirmations and images from my vision board in my bathroom mirror, and I do it in a square. So that way you always see yourself in your vision.
Yeah.
And I do that, and then I have one on my door whenever I leave. I'm a big Golden State Warriors fan, so it's a picture of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and they're high-fiving each other. And I have that, and it says, "Be awesome, be amazing, be a warrior." And I have to slap that every time I walk out my door. And these are just little tricks that I do. And it's funny, years ago when I did go to LA, and I was like 20 years old, and I worked for Unsolved Mysteries, and John Cosgrove, the creator of Cosgrove Mirror, the co-creator of Unsolved Mysteries, he got my car. It's like, what's it on your dashboard? And at the time, it was my Oscar speech. He goes, what's it? I said, I recite it every day, so I'm ready and prepared. And like, what? I'm like, so I've been learning that mentality since I was a young kid.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of success with applying it. There's other times when I realize when things aren't working is when I detract from that. And I have to get back into it. And like right now, one of my favorite gifts, and I give this to everybody, is You're a Badass by Jen Sincero.
Okay, yeah.
I love this book. Ironically enough, she lives in New Mexico. Didn't know that. I've never met her. I have all of her books, but I give that book to everybody. And it's funny, I gave it to my daughter at one point. She's older now. In many years, she's like, get it now, Dad. She read the book. I'm like, yeah. It's the same thing. Let's all have it in us. It's just like, do you power through and do you just go for it? And we're like, all right. And because we're all badasses. And, this is what I love. And I do see this shift in the world, this mentality of people are a little bit more esoteric, or they're kind of like, yeah, why not? I can do that. Another great thing like what you're doing. You guys are doing a podcast. Everything out of COVID, where people are starting their own businesses. People are like, you know what? Like, there's a great commercial right now. There's this heavyset woman. She's like, I'd go in the store and I couldn't find it. I just designed it myself. And she's like, she's now the CEO of her company. I mean, I love hearing things like that.
I love that we're in this point in society where people have the power, right? And they can, if they put their mind to it, they're consistent, they believe in it, they can do it.
I know.
It's easy.
It's absolutely doable. And, I think I know you're a big goal setter, and I know you guys are highly successful, and you run a great team, and I'm sure you have your goals. You're like, okay, I'm going to hit this. I'm going to do that. You guys are the ones that kind of run everything out here. And I think that's great. And that shows your initiative and what you're into and how you look at things. So, sorry.
No, I love it.
Love talking. I'm such a Gemini.
Man, thank you so much. I don't want to end it, but
same
thank
here.
you so much.
I could do this all day. I feel like
problem.
But yeah, thank you so much. This has been great.
No, thank you. I mean, I'm very humbled. Like, seriously, I'm very humbled. Anytime I get asked to, be a part of something, I'm like, really? Me? I'm like, okay, cool. And I love it. So hopefully whoever's listening, you guys got something out of this.
No, there are tons of gold nuggets. And you're a badass. Who's the author?
Jensen Sharrow.
Jensen Sharrow. We'll definitely pick that one up.
All right.
So once again, Michael Jones, thank you so much for stopping in. This is Grit, Grind, and Hustle. Please follow us on all of our social platforms. Estevan, you want to do the plug?
Yeah, YouTube right now, Simply Real Estate NM. You can find us on Instagram, K2 Simply Real Estate, K2 Commercial, K2 East Mountains. Facebook, same thing, website. It'll all be linked in the show notes below.
Yeah, perfect.
And, on our other podcast, Real Estate Training Podcast. Yeah.
We'll teach you everything about real estate. We'll look forward to seeing you guys next time. Go crush it.